And welcome. My name is Russ Porteous, and I am here with my co-host, Peter Karaglanis. Pete, welcome along this evening. Frances can't be with us. She's in a Business Excellence Awards ceremony on the Gold Coast, where her company, White Pebble Interiors, is up for a business award. So super exciting. Yeah, very exciting for Frances. How's your week been, Pete?
Oh, it's been epic. It's been fantastic. Been on some amazing properties. We're on this just magnificent property out on Mount Joing with a client that's building more out there. And if you like mountain streams through your property, that's crystal clear, magnificent.
Yeah, you did mention that last week. So this week on the block, we've got our backyards. Contestants have been busily working on their backyards. And I think when I first visited Charming Street at the prior to the season starting, they had already finished their backyards, and I think they'd even finished their front yards. So it shows how long ago production actually finished on site. And I think last weekend, if I stand to be corrected here, they had an open for inspection. Was that right?
Yeah, they did last Saturday.
Yeah. So we may as well start with house number one. Let's bring that up. We've got Kyle and Leslie. There's only one. I've only got one word to describe them.
Share that.
Heartbroken.
Yeah, totally. They were so despondent. I think they actually are probably the most stoic of all the couples. And I think in the intro, before they actually found out what the scores were, Kyle said that we begin Monday with hope. Whatever's happened last week, somehow within themselves, they reset their mindset. Well, it's a new week, new beginnings. Let's see what happens. And look, they've got 1 week left. But I actually just think they're running on fumes now. I think that the comments made by the judges, I accept them for what they are, but I think for production value, it gets accentuated. There's a few of the comments, just in my opinion, that they keep going over and over and over again. And it's almost like Caesar sticking his thumb down for, kill that, kill that combatant. And so, yeah, and for it to continue into house two, them going back to house one, they had a few cutaways when they were at Leanne Ash's house, and it was just grueling to watch. I gotta say, there's a lot of things I like about the block. This year, I haven't really enjoyed the editing component of and what they're trying to do. Yeah, it's more than that. It's crossed over. It's pure cruel voyeurism. And so I feel that something has to be looked at in that area because it's not adding. In my mind, it's subtracting from the show. So
as we've said on many occasions, from an editorial perspective and the production perspective, if it was more uplifting like MasterChef, I think we'd have more people, and it would rival MasterChef as Australia's leading reality TV show. So I tend to agree with you. It's hard to watch. We want to see success, not at the expense of somebody else. We want to see individual success. Yep. We want to see everybody winning. I think that's so maybe, and I don't know, maybe they've just got a different editorial philosophy or production philosophy this year. I don't know. It's a toughie.
Look, I'm a huge one for meritocracy. I think that if you've presented the best, that you win. And I think that if you're not cutting the mustard, that while you comment truthfully on what's going on, but you give them a way forward. I don't see that. I just see that they're cutting them off at the knees, and I don't really enjoy that part of it. However, I will make a comment. Landscaping, and we will see it. I'll touch on it when we go in towards house three. Landscaping is a really interesting thing. So they're trying to hit a certain price point in the market. They want to try and get over 3 million in this area for each home. That's where they're going. So, doing it is, a lot of people call themselves landscapers when in fact they're glorified gardeners. and you can get away with things in a normal garden that you just cannot get away with under the glare of of cameras, of judges like this, and
Correct. The style.
at home. Yeah, absolutely. And
I think,
so,
I think that like it would be easy for you and I to point at particular landscapers based on this evening's episode. We won't be doing that. That's not the style of our show. But you're right. I guess that's why they had Dave Franklin on there. He is a well-known master.
oh, look, it certainly is. And so here's the key thing, just so anyone watching can actually understand what's going on. So you can have really good quality gardeners do an outstanding garden for a house for sale. So we actually do have gardeners and we do have landscapers, which do that. However, if we really want to knock something out, we would actually bring in someone to design a landscape that a good quality landscaper would put together for us. And so for that to happen, you actually have to pay for that consultancy, and sometimes you have to pay for it during the job. It's like oversighting the job, and it's an expensive task. You can spend as much on a garden. We're on one property in Templestowe, Sir Pell's Road. It took 5 years to build the house. It was a 300 square home. The gardens alone were over $2 million. And that was on a block that, going by memory, I think it might have been about 1,400 square meters. So it wasn't a monster, but it wasn't small. The concreting alone, so it had an 11-car garage that was under the house, because there was Ferraris and Lamborghinis and a bunch of other things. When they actually designed the crossover, which is the driveway from the street into the house, it was all laser leveled out, and it was at a really shallow angle, so you didn't bottom out the Ferraris. Interestingly enough, the guy who owned that house, his favorite car was a Nissan Navara, of all things. He goes, I sit in an office all day, I wear a suit, and he goes, I want to feel like a man. And that was his go-to vehicle. So
you should have had a Hilux, mate. Should have had a Hilux. Coming from the guy that doesn't have a Hilux at the moment, I haven't had a Hilux for years, actually.
No, they're a good vehicle. I've owned a few.
Yeah. Hey, sorry, go ahead, mate.
So with Kyle and Leslie, look, I actually thought their garden presented really well. A lot of things that they actually picked up, like the steps into the swimming pool, I thought looked amazing. I actually don't think that it was as big a deal with the kids walking up. Anyway, what parent is going to let a really young kid walk up those stairs alone? You're just not going to do it. Any parent, like we had a house with a swimming pool once, we had really young kids in there. I'll guarantee you, we did not let the kids in the pool unless one or both of us were there. It just didn't happen. It's not pool safety. So I think that they were, making a mountain out of a molehill. Some of the things that they were talking about, like the safety screens for the pool, were too far out. They should have pulled it back. What I actually saw in that was to allow space for greenery to flourish. If you have glass too close to the pool, you can't actually clean it. And it looks terrible. And trust me, I have done a lot of places that have done exactly what they said, and I actually was in furious disagreement. It looks crap. And I've seen some stuff that looks aesthetically amazing, but within 1 or 2 short years, unless you have professional gardeners and professional maintenance people around all the time, it never looks the way it did the day it was finished. So I was a hard no on some of what they were saying.
Yeah, understood. If you're watching our live stream this evening, feel free to drop comments in the, give us your feedback in the comments below. Let us know where you're viewing from. We're broadcasting to 3 different platforms, Twitch, Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Let us know where you're watching and any comments that you might have about this evening's episode. Where we look at the contestants and the work that they've done on their backyards, or in one case, their front yard, and also their plunge pools. So, Pete, let's go over to house number 2.
Leah and Ash.
Correcto.
Oh, look, I liked it. I
Yeah,
liked it a lot. For all the drama that went on during the week, mate, they worked hard. And the one thing you got to give Leah and Ash, they bend back. They do not fluff around. I mean, when I say they don't fluff around, they get carried away with things they don't need to, as far as interpersonal relationships. However, the actual task at hand is really good.
Yeah.
I love their raised pool.
Yeah,
I really
I
did.
did too.
I just thought
there was some questions about the tile choices on that pool at the start of the week, and I think so it all came together really well. I preferred their steps up to the pool compared to house number 1.
Correct.
And just how it was discreetly around the back of the pool to get in as well.
Look, I thought it looked nice. Shana Blaze actually said, she was talking about the tiles and the colour. It tied up with, remember their initial bathroom? And, that's the one that Francis Cosway said felt so masculine. But there's been a symmetry within the design of their home. I love the tree. I love trees, and a really nice established tree just ties it up. And it was the luck of the draw. It wasn't because they planted it there. It was existing. But it's a hard thing to actually plan around something that you're not going to cut away. I think their designers and landscapers did an amazing job.
I really liked the arbor when you came from the house over the top of the barbecue. So that was pretty good too.
Well, Darren Palmer said this. He loved the big dining table with lots of seating. He loved the chill feel of the place. In fact, Dave Franklin said it had a very zen feeling. And it's interesting, you heard me on this show talk time and time again about big fat Greek barbecues that we have, time with families. And I know it's the same at your place with that massive pizza oven. I actually think you need a picture of your pizza oven next week before the thing goes off, especially with that little luminescent stuff you've got in there. But
for those that are not familiar, I have a commercially large pizza oven in the backyard that I built myself. And it has a floating island bench out the front that's I think off the top of my head it's about 4 meters wide. And inlaid into the stone is photoluminescent rock, 3 different colors. So green, blue, and a kind of yellow. So at night, it glows. And we use the floating bench to, on one side is to roll out the dough, and the other side is to make the pizzas with the big pizza oven in the middle.
See, that's just memories. And that's actually, it's a really interesting thing. When I was selling homes, I remember one of the CEOs of the company I was at, which was National Builders. So they did about 1,400 homes a year. Well, he asked me one day, I sold 5 homes in a day and a half. This is brand new homes. And he goes, what the hell are you doing? And I go, I sell barbecues, not houses. And what I meant by that was once I discovered how people like to use their homes, and most people love entertaining, I'd always ask, what do you love about your home, the current one? What do you hate? That list was always longer. But when you'd show a good alfresco dining area, a really good island bench, people gravitate to it because, we're communal people. And so tying up what we're talking about, your pizza oven, selling homes, which is what this show is actually all about, and what they delivered there with that big table, it tells you that this is a welcoming place, that we're going to create memories here. Now, when David Franklin said, hey, this has a really zen feel to the backyard, and it was just very calm, and I liked it. You noted when they walked around and sat on the chairs and table, or the chairs on the other side, and looked back towards the house. They said it just all worked. This is what it's all about. This is what we chase. And that is what really good landscaping design is all about. It's about, it's as important design-wise as the inside. And so that's what really came forward. And look, I got to say, I loved it. There's my dog. I loved everything about it. I would love to have a barbecue at that house, I can assure you.
I thought it was, to be frank, I thought it was half a point to a point too high for each of the judges. But I did like it.
Yep. Yeah, I got to say that was my feeling. I thought that they were creating tension in the show.
Yeah, of course.
Which they did, but good tension.
Yeah.
It wasn't negative energy; it was expectation, and this is why I could never be a coach of any sporting side, because I just couldn't stand that thing. Brett and Christy, oh my goodness, this one here. So I mentioned earlier on, and this isn't a go at the guy who was the landscaper. The key thing in any market we deal in, you have the right people for the right market. So I don't always have the same trades team on every property we do, because you match trades to the type of property that you're working on. And so I've got people who are gardeners and pseudo landscapers, and there are properties I'll get them to work on, and then there are others that I won't, because there's just a higher demand, higher attention to detail, and it just means something very, very different. And that's what happened here. And with planning, I'm a copious note taker. When we're planning out a job, we've got, before day one starts, I know what we're doing and when, weeks out, every single day. Yeah. I know what's going to happen, and you would in your business. So that's what happened here. It was a yes. So one of the key things that they use a travertine tile on the floor,
which is what I have around my pool. Dave said it doesn't get hot. I think it was Dave. He said it doesn't get hot during the summer. Absolutely correct.
Yeah, it's 100%. Really good. So one of the key things with travertine is understanding what type of stone it is. And so, I've seen it in properties. We've prepared them and sealed them and reconditioned them before. I think it's a great choice. And the key thing with travertine, it actually doesn't go in and out of fashion. It'll look as good if they maintain it. It's going to look as good in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years if it's maintained. And it's just one of those things. Unlike slate, slate comes in and out. And I've seen slate outside. And I know how to look after it. We do restoration work with it, but I don't always love it, even though it looks good when we're finished. I think that was a big...
The only thing I would say about travertine from our perspective is that the inclusions can be quite large. So that's it's not the end of the world. But in the darker parts of my backyard, so we've got a big palm tree, and around the edge of that, in those darker parts, it loves to accumulate moss.
Yep. So that's easy to take care of.
I know that. I know that. No, you can tell me now.
So one of the key things is using is when you're cleaning, we use a penetrating sealer. So penetrating sealer, you can't see it. The key of it is it allows moisture out, but it stops going in. And so once you've got that done, the moss doesn't start to penetrate through the stone itself, because it's actually porous, and that's the key thing. And so once you start using penetrating sealers, in fact, our house, we've got on every level, we've got sandstone, and so you have to treat it exactly the same, the same way.
In those inclusions in the travertine, what we're planning to do at some point is to get photoluminescent powder, mix it with epoxy, and then fill it in certain spots around the pool, so that also going. So some more stuff that we're doing. So
I love it.
Okay, let's just jump straight into Stefan Gian here.
Although I will say this, David Franklin said something that was really telling. He said, "I'm bored by looking at this." This was actually a really brutal thing to say. He said, "There's no design element." So when I actually looked at it, I actually think that area is about 12 months away for looking fantastic. And they're going to have to change something like the stones. Okay, so we saw the stones, or the poo stones, as they were called. It's a really interesting thing. So I actually go out and have a look at all the stone, and I select stone before it goes down. I like to use 20 mil quartz. I use a lot of it. But really good quality stone when it comes to you isn't in dirt. It's actually encased in white sand. So there's a few reasons you do it. It actually stops it clumping together. It also means that when you're shoveling it in, it moves a lot easier. It's easier to wash down. And white sand is innocuous, so it's not going to fundamentally stain anything. I was actually really surprised when that stone was dropped off. I was flummoxed. I've never seen stone delivered that way. And I've done tons and tons of it. So, yeah, that was a big surprise.
Okay, house number 4.
Steph and Gian. Now, they spent $71,704.
Big
That's
chunk
some
of that would have
serious
been that
time.
deck, I'd reckon.
Mate, I got to tell you, that was insane. 4 big, beautiful skylights in it, apex roof on the inside, the
Blinds, auto blinds.
Yeah, I tell you, it is 11 out of 10. Now, I mentioned to you, I think it might have been 2 weeks ago, Tom Panos is the selling auctioneer of this place. Now, it's really interesting how Tom Panos does his research before he goes onto the show. And so he goes, actually have 2 entrances. He believes that this place will kill it in sales for so many reasons. But the design elements, how the house is naturally sat, he was happy with it. And so Tom Panos, if you remember the boys who won last year, he was their auctioneer. And let me tell you, if you know anything about Tom Panos, he does his homework. He will have been doing testing already over weeks and months with this property. So there's a lot that will come out of that. Everything about this I absolutely loved. The superlatives just kept flowing with this one. I think they picked on one thing around the walking up the steps to the back of the swimming pool. Darren Palmer goes, "Oh, isn't this a bit high?" And he said that to how did he say it to Dave Franklin?
Dave Franklin.
Yeah, and he goes, "Oh yeah." And so Dave Franklin didn't really give it a go. That's the only thing they could pick up on it. And so just everything
I said to my wife, I think we've got enough of a backyard that we could stick in a sauna ourselves. So I got a bit inspired by that. I love a good sauna or a steam room.
Yeah, look, can I tell you, they don't ever excite me, ever. I can't think of one property that we have ever done where they've been in where they actually get used. They're up there with spas. They're a good idea at the time. And in fact, we were on one a week and a half ago where I was doing a pre-sale audit, and it was a storage area. And it was a really big one, and it was full of boxes and stuff. And I said to the owners, "Have you ever used this?" They go, "Yeah, it was really exciting for the first 6 months." I go, "When was the last time you used it?" They go, 10 years ago. It's just one of those things. Look, love the gardens. If we remember earlier on when David Palmer picked on Steph for changing around the kitchen, and so she moved the kitchen and the lounge room around. She vindicated herself now that you can walk straight out of the kitchen and into that beautiful garden and dining area outside. It's like another room. And we could go on about this place for a week, but I just think it was just perfection. Everything about it is atypical of that couple. And they've been through the wars this week with Steph went to her grandfather's funeral, and while she was up there, she found Gian's granddad had died. So, it's tough.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about house number 5.
Oh, my goodness. Eliza doesn't hide what she's thinking. Neither does Liberty. So, what's the kindest way that I could describe this? It was very suburban, the layout of the backyard. Now, and when I say suburban, think of what was being done in the 80s and 90s in the Outer East. It was nice, but it just lacks. It just lacks so much. And the thing was that it was the concrete that really undid them. So they used the non-burnished concrete. It was very industrial feeling. In fact, I believe it was Marty Fox was saying, no, it was Darren Palmer that said where their barbecue areas felt like a garden shed. There was nothing about it that was alive. Now, that said, it's easy to fix. You can recolor it. That's easily done. You can go over it. So nothing's
it's all fixable.
Yeah, all fixable. So there's nothing here structural. It's just design elements. Down the back, I think it was their one where they had the glass fence was at a 45-degree angle. There's just lots of little things in there. But it was really interesting. Their landscaper was a young 21-year-old bloke. So he's at the beginning of his journey. I thought he did an outstanding job. I think he really did an outstanding job. All it is plants. There's a few things that you can change in there. And I'll tell you what, it's not up to the standard of everything else, but there's not a lot. And I think one of the key things that come out of it was they got time enough to fix those little design cues, and it's going to look absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So in the wash-up, Steph and Gian won this evening's competition, another $10,000 for them. They could have been pipped with a gnome from house 2, but they weren't. So with 1 week to go, it'll be interesting to see. And then we've got the auction. So I'm pretty excited about the next week just to see what's going to happen next, and see, if what Marty Fox said is going to break a record. Is house number 4 going to break a record in Hampton East? And it was an interesting perspective, he said, because it is an adjoining suburb to Brighton, which is more affluent, I suppose, probably because of its proximity to the city. But I could just see that people in Brighton who need to downscale or maybe capitalise on their property value in Brighton but still maintain some value. I think I could see that made a bit of sense to me. So this is going to be an interesting week to watch.
Actually, that was a really good insight. So in effect, what he said, there are those, because it will be talking because of interest rate rises, there'll be those just hanging on to their current properties. So interestingly enough, at the market, in fact, in auctions, the auction rates were unbelievable. I think they were about 80% in Victoria, which is actually extremely high. Records are still going up. So prices are still being set week in, week out. So if you were in, say, Sandringham, Brighton, Hampton proper, any of those areas, or even Beaumaris, which are all within 5-10 minutes of where the block's being filmed, but you're looking at $1 million jump to many $1 million jump. So one of the hardest things is if you have a prestigious property and you have everything in it, to move back to a normal one is extremely challenging. So Marty Fox was saying that there'll be those who consider not so much just downsizing, but right sizing for their budget. And when we've done homes before, one of the 4 key markets we deal with when I actually speak to vendors is depending on the price point the market's at. So one of the key areas I talk about is designing a home, a turnkey home for a downsizer. So those who've had the really big home, maybe the kids are out of the house, but they want a turnkey solution. They don't want to move in and do stuff. And if you've got all the really good appointments there, you know what's going to happen? And it's happened with properties we've done where the clients bought, they've outbid everyone else, but they've still got $1 million in their pocket from their last sale. And mate, they are sitting pretty. And so that
it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, Marty Fox saying that really gave a good insight into what happens in property.
Yeah. Well, Pete, thanks so much for your insights, valuable as they are. We wish Francis all the best for the BX Awards on the Gold Coast for her company, White Pebble Interiors. What have you got on this week, Pete?
We're actually out tomorrow with one of the West's premier agents. We're actually presenting a property for him personally.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty excited to do that. In fact, the firm that he has a partnership in is extremely well known in the inner ring in the West. So that is an area with lots of period homes. So very excited for that.
Very good. And if people want to find out about Presenting Homes Australia, or connect with you because they've got an existing property that they want to bring to market. And you and I spoke during the week about the difference between what a real estate agent wants and needs and what a vendor wants and needs. And they are two different things. We talked about how vendors want to capitalize on their return. And certainly real estate agents want that, but they've also got this churn factor as well. They need to churn through properties quick. And so if vendors take responsibility early up, they can work with somebody like you, Pete, at Presenting Homes Australia to maximise their return, then go and meet with the real estate agents to churn the property.
Look, we do that a lot. We'll often find out someone wants to sell their home and they'll ask for, they want a quote on, say, pressure washing or windows. And once we discover that they're thinking about selling, we actually put in place for them a whole structure of what to do next. And we even help them find agents if they want, which we've done tons of times. We get to know who the best agents are in the area. So, it's really collaborative relationship. So if you want to find me, you can go online, find me under presentinghomesaustralia.com.au. You can find me under Presenting Homes Australia on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and under my personal name on Facebook as well.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening as we're getting right towards the end of the block. I also think it's pretty sad that we're coming to the end of 17 seasons with Scott Cam. And so it's, for me, it's a little bit sad to see him go. I saw how he did Tools Down this evening. He's such a brilliant character on the show. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next when they go to Phillip Island. So thanks for joining us on this evening on Reality Talks. Have a great week.
You too.